Hey guys, welcome to Conversations via Vino. Today we are going to meet Miss Kirtika Challapa. She's a yoga guru and she has a very rich experience in yoga, design thinking, and behavioral training. She has students from the age of 5 to 65. We are going to discuss with her about the similarities between eco friendly lifestyle and yogic lifestyle. Let's meet Kirtika Challapa. Hi Kirtika,
Hi, Vino.
thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us.
Thank you so much, Vino, for even thinking about me and, having me over for this conversation.
Is yoga just another form of exercise like how you go to gym, you do yoga, and there are other forms of exercises as well? So is it just another form of exercise or is it a lifestyle? Like, does it bring any change in your whole personality when you start to do yoga?
It's like any other tool, Vino. It's about how you use it. Yes, you can leave it at a physical level and it will help you to become stronger, healthier, makes you really robust and strong from the inside. So, to that extent, it is great. But it has the capacity to do so much more, to reach so much more farther. So, my experience personally is that it transformed my life. When I allowed it to, it transformed my entire life. Like the way I would deal with people or deal with problems, everything kind of changed. So yes, it can be a lifestyle if you choose, but if you want to only use it at a physical level, yes, you can do that as well. There's no problems either ways.
I always find this connect between a sustainable lifestyle and a yogic lifestyle. You know, people who are totally into yoga always are very conscious about what they are consuming, what they are buying, what they are eating, everything. So, what is the connection between these two lifestyles? Do you think they both are very similar, or are there differences?
No, absolutely, you're right. It's a common cultural part, right? Like Ayurveda, which tells us very clearly eat what is local, eat what is grown at a particular season, like eat seasonal food, consume more vegetable than protein or carbohydrate. Like these are very simple things that we all learn every day in our life. And sustainability is so in a part of our culture. So, for example, I'm washing vessels. The water is plugged into my garden in such a way that it waters my entire garden. Nothing is ever wasted. The entire house is always finding a way to, remain alive like an organism. And yoga very clearly is about sustaining your body by understanding your body, understanding your breath, and then understanding your mind. So sustainability and yoga, I mean, it so totally goes hand in hand. In yoga, very clearly, our saints have told us, like, even the clothes that you're wearing when you're working out, don't let it be too tight. Let it be of natural fiber so that it can breathe organically.
Wow.
So in fact, they say the longer you want to work out, wear lesser clothes. If you really want to work out for 4 or 5 hours, don't wear too many clothes and inhibit yourself and trap heat into your body, because that has certain consequences for a practicing yogi. And there's no question of vanity. In yoga, there is no question of vanity. Nobody cares how you look. I have to be, as a student, I need to be able to observe your body, see how your limbs move in reaction to each other. So, as a student, I'm really not interested in how tight your clothes are. It really doesn't matter to me. But modern athletic wear is all about showing off how great you look. And I understand, I love it, right? So I understand, I look great in it, I love it. But is that sustainable? Is that good for us? If you want to stay in it for longer hours and work for 4 or 5 hours, then the answer is no.
If somebody is starting their journey towards yoga and suddenly we have been consuming so many toxic food and we have been doing all unhealthy stuff so far and suddenly becoming very clean, eating nice organic food and starting to do yoga and starting to live a proper disciplined life, how does the body react?
The journey is wonderful, and that's what you understand is that if you're curious about how your body and your mind reacts to just not eating onions, for example, it's just like a social experiment you do on your own body, and you understand how each thing affects your mind, how sleeping for 8 hours affects your mind vis-a-vis sleeping for 5 hours. Like now in the COVID times where we are not ordering outside, right? We learning, we are saving money, but we are all losing weight.
Yes.
Even if you're consuming heavy, healthy, creamy food, is because we are not eating outside. So now you see how your thoughts are changing, how your mind is changing, and therefore it is inevitable. It's a part of your biology and your chemistry that whatever you take in impacts your thought process.
What is the role of pranayama, the breathing exercises, and meditation, and what is the change that will bring in, like, emotionally and also physically to a person?
First thing I want to kind of help everyone understand and discover is that your body and your mind is completely linked. So if you want to change one thing, you can put impact on anything, and the other will also eventually change. Okay, but while any change is happening, you're trying to create like an atmosphere which is safe, right? Like, so when you're pregnant, right, your womb is creating that safe atmosphere for something new to begin. Now, what is happening in today's life is that we have no time to stop, to breathe, to meditate. And therefore, there is no time for this safety net to be created at all, for any of your creations to be fulfilled and to be fully manifest. Irrespective of what we feel today, of what is happening, the most important thing we realize today is that we are breathing, right?
True.
Our breath is our most important commodity, and we have no clue about what our breath does, what is its capacity. Therefore, what can we do with it? How to store it? We know nothing about it, and there's an entire universe behind it. Pranayama will help you increase your energy. Will help you fight depression, anxiety. I myself suffer from a lot of anxiety, so it personally helps me a lot. It removes diseases like PCOD. It's really helpful for elderly people with dyslexia and Alzheimer's. The list is endless of the glories of pranayama. When we breathe right, we live right. It is as simple as that. And the minute we know to breathe, our body is connected to our breath, and therefore our mind is immediately connected. So you are meditating. Meditation is not about sitting in a corner. Meditation is about being aware of your toes on the floor right now. And as long as you're constantly aware and in a meditative state, you are making all the right decisions. Life is great, and you can deal with everything.
It feels very spiritual, divine, and connected to the universe. You're talking about manifesting things, and while this is happening on one side, at the same time, there is also all these branded yoga. Like, I hear several names. I came across some goat yoga, beer yoga,
Yeah,
grape yoga.
yeah,
What are
yeah.
these? What is your take on all these new developments in yoga?
So, see, I would first of all say I think it's a privilege that they're ripping off yoga because you only copy things that are really good. So, yoga works. That's first thing for yoga, and I would say hooray for that. But secondly, yoga is not just asana, it's not just poses. What these guys are doing is they are taking poses and they're incorporating something else on it. And yoga, is very open to be used with other forms of art or martial art or body art or movement, any of it. It's completely fine. You can use yoga with music, with dancing, with, anything, absolutely anything. And so it's great that they want to try it with beer, that they want to try it with the goat. Uh, I hope the goat does not give them more pain and create more reason to have yoga. But I would just say this, that yoga needs to be, if it is practiced mindfully, you can gain so much more from it. And not understanding yogas, like pure yoga and all, it is creating a need for yoga. It's like today's pharmaceutical medicines. They just create the need for more medicines. They create the need for illness and for sickness. They don't fix the problem, they create a problem. And so these are not like really something that can really help you in the long run. They are fine for you to try and fun for you to try. So I would encourage everyone to try it once in a while, but I would not like commit to it in the long term.
How do we identify a right guru? Because you see fancy
Yeah.
pictures, there are so many different methods, and people vouch for different things. Many people
Yeah.
recommend many different types. How do you find a right guru? How do you identify?
You're so right. Like one of the biggest fears, I think, as soon as I became a teacher, and I still have to this day, and I focus on every student of mine, is that you can't ever to get too arrogant as a yoga teacher. You just cannot afford to. You really have to be willing to see the reality that your methods don't work, that you need to try something else. It's never your students. It's always you. It's your method. It's what you have learned. And I have just been lucky because I've been teaching for the last 15 years in different fields. So I already had a lot of experience that I could bring into yoga. And when I see new yoga teachers, this is the first thing I tell them, that you can be really great at doing asanas. Like you could be like a gymnast. There are things that you could do that I will never ever be able to do in my life. But that does not make you a good teacher. First of all, the one thing you need to search for in a guru is a guru who has had experience. Please do not go for things that are glitzy and glamorous. Like go for a guru with whom the minute you talk to, you need to be able to trust the guru. It's the most simplest thing. If you don't trust them, don't work with them. It's as simple as that. No matter how cheap, expensive, popular, blah, blah, blah they are. So trust is a very important factor. You can always talk to the other students of the guru to find out how they have been. And you can always leave the guru. There is absolutely nothing stopping you from leaving a particular guru and going on to another guru. So I would say try as many, and when you find the right person, stay with them, and we will always leave the guru. This is what being a teacher teaches you, is that your student cannot be a student forever. Yeah, they have to move on. They have to learn other things. They have to do other things. They have to be other things. And therefore, it is your job as a teacher to enable them to do all those awesome things. So I think the right guru is ready. When you are really searching for it, the right guru shall appear.
What is the need to stay silent for at least for a few minutes every day? Just by sitting quiet and observing yourself. It sounds very simple, but what does it do to oneself?
You're so right, like for some people, the hardest thing to do is to sit still. And some of these are my dearest friends and most loved ones in my life. And I see them struggle with this concept of sitting still. But it's such an important skill to develop. Today, of all the times, we really need to know how not to do anything. Tomorrow, if there is no electricity, if there is no food, if there is absolutely no entertainment, if there is no job, how do we survive? If we had to stay inside like this for 2 years, what could we do? How do we, we need to really be able to sit still. Now more than ever, that's really clear. And therefore, I would say silence is important. Stay silent for at least 5 minutes. Try for 5 minutes every day. When I say silent, not working on the phone, not listening to music, not reading anything, not even doing anything. Like, not doing something with your hands, like just absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And you would see kids do that all the time, right? They lay down in the bed and their eyes are open and it's beautiful. And we need that silence back. It's really important because there's so much information today. There's just so much content. Scientifically, our eyes and our brain don't understand the difference between what we see and what we experience. Yeah, so our eyes, for example, do not understand that we are watching a video. Your eyes think it is happening to you. This is a biological fact. And today, with the amount of information that is put on us, the kind of abuse it does to our system, the way we are really pushing our own boundaries, it's insanity. No wonder we are all feeling like we are going to lose it. So all I'm saying is take a breath, find a corner that you like, or find a bed, find a spot, just sit. Just sit for 5 minutes, look at nature, see what's happening, see how life is happening in spite of you, and it's beautiful and it's great. And so I would really encourage silence. For all the people who are going crazy working out during this period, I would suggest please take rest. Don't work out 7 days a week. That makes no sense. Like biologically, that's really bad for you. So take a rest, whether it is people who are working insane hours at the office and, the mothers, who are doing all of it. It's just, I just am amazed with their energy, with their ability to be empathic at the end of the day and their compassion. But I'm like, ladies, take a rest. Take a break. Soak your feet into a tub or something. Just don't do anything for 5 minutes. Please, I ask of you.
Thank you so much, Kirtika. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity because it has made me reflect on my own journey. I love what my life is today. and yoga is certainly a reason why I love my life how it is today. And just talking to you helps me realize that all over again. And thank you so much for that.